But this isn't something that can be done that easily. Unless villains commit some large-scale atrocities, the laws won't change anytime soon, Naruto thought, putting his smartphone back in his pocket. Turning his attention to the children frolicking in the playground, his expression involuntarily turned into a smile when he saw a white-haired little girl sliding down a slide and laughing out loud when she collided against another girl ahead of her. Little Eri had missed Naruto terribly when he had been away on the internship, so now he was doing his best to spend more time with her. As the end of May came closer, so did the term exams. Therefore, Naruto wanted to give Eri attention now when he still had some free time. In a few days, he would have to start cramming for the exams, and he would barely have any free time left at all. Naruto Noe-san, come play with us. Eri let out a shout, making him grin at how adorable she was. Wearing a short-sleeved pink dress with a big cat motif on the chest, dark blue tights underneath, and a diadem in the shape of rabbit ears on her head, in Naruto's biased point of view, little Eri was the cutest girl in the world, ever. He could not refuse her whatever she asked. In the next few minutes, the playground's level of noise increased by several folds as the children's squeals of excitement could hardly be contained. All of them would climb onto the highest level of the playground house, and then jump off for Naruto to catch them. They loved it, especially when he caught them with his fluffy foxtails. Ow! A child suddenly let out a cry. While rushing to the highest level of the playground house, the little boy missed a step when climbing up the stairs and fell. As the kid started bawling his eyes out, his mother quickly rushed out to see what had happened to him. What happened, sweetie? Are you all right? Let mommy see what happened, the mother said, and took him in her arms before going to the side of the playground and sitting with him on a bench. The boy was cradling his left wrist with his right hand and crying out loud, clearly in pain. But kids getting injured at the playground was nothing uncommon, especially among boys. Oh no, I think he sprained his wrist, one of the mother's friends said from the side. Thank God it wasn't something worse, the mother said while caressing her son's head and embracing him in an attempt to soothe him. But while the boy was still crying a river from pain, Eri came close and told the mother, Oba-san, I could heal him with my quirk. Eri? No, Naruto said, startled, but before he had the chance to stop her, the horn on the side of her forehead glowed with a yellow light, which then engulfed the boy's entire hand and forearm. Ah! The little boy gasped and abruptly stopped crying. It doesn't hurt anymore. The parents and the children alike all crowded around the bench where the mother and the son were sitting, all of them gawking at the boy who was rolling his wrist in amazement. Oh man, was the only thing Naruto could say, and he groaned as he made his way through the crowd to take Eri away. Whoa, my son is way too cute. Naruto Noe-san is the best. But Eri-chan is even cuter. Mom is so proud of how you helped that boy. Really? Really? You're the most adorable girl ever. Not long after Naruto and Eri returned home, a video of what happened at the playground had already popped up on the profile of one of Kushina's friends on Crosscap. Hearing his mother and his little sister gushing over him was not a new occurrence for Naruto, and while it was, in general, in equal measure both embarrassing and endearing, this time he covered his fox ears with his palms and let his head fall on the desk with a thud. A few moments later, he stood up and opened the door of his bedroom before yelling, Mom, I'm trying to study here. You're all being way too loud. Sorry, Naruto-chan, came Kushina's voice from downstairs, but she was obviously unapologetic. To further prove that, Kushina and Eri started watching the video again, their voices not any less loud than before. Naruto closed the door to his bedroom in annoyance and let out another groan. The term exams were only a month away, and he had yet to cover at least half of the material he was supposed to study. Whether it was his previous life or his current one, he had never been good at studying. He wasn't exactly the dead last in his class this time around. He was spared of that shame thanks to Mina Ashido and Kaminari Denki, who looked like they were competing for the dead last and second last positions, respectively. Nonetheless, he was still on the lower end when it came to his grades in regular classes, just above Yuga Oyama, who was the third last. It was low enough for him to worry about failing. Seeing as his mom and his little sister were in an especially good mood today, he reckoned they weren't going to pipe down the noise level anytime soon. That, combined with his laziness and inborn aversion to studying, made Naruto give up on cramming for the exams at the moment. Instead, he changed into his sports clothes and grabbed his gym bag. "I'll go to the gym and get a good workout first. I'll study when I get back in the evening." Spoiler: he didn't study at all when he came back from the gym. While Tenya Tuidia's death at the beginning of the month left his classmates in shock, 2 weeks later, things were back to normal for the most part. At the end of the day, people couldn't mourn the deceased forever, especially if they weren't even that close to begin with. They weren't family. They were just classmates. These days, most of the students seemed to have moved on and were preoccupied with other things. Those who hadn't quit UA High after Minato Minoru's death at the beginning of the year had already resolved themselves to become pro-heroes no matter what. Tenya Tuidia's unfortunate demise did not convince them to give up on their dreams. It only served as a warning and a reminder of what they were going to face on their paths. All Might in particular had noticed a stark difference in one class students' motivation and earnestness during their combat classes. In the present, they were stressing over their normal struggles as teenagers. For some of them, it was their studies, while for others, it was their social life and romance. Ashido Mina was part of the latter category. Although she was in danger of failing her term exams, the girl had something completely different on her mind. "Ah, he's so dreamy," she said wistfully as she watched a clip on her smartphone. Kyoka Jiro and Uraraka Okako were standing next to her too as they watched the video together with her. It was a video of Naruto playing with the little children at the playground yesterday. Considering his popularity, people's interest in him was off the charts. The moment that the parents who had filmed the scene posted their clips on their profiles, it quickly went viral. Only a day later, those clips were shared all over social media. But then Jiro blew out a sigh and told Mina, "Just give up, girl. You've seen that pic of him in Mirko too, haven't you? It's a lost cause." She was talking about the photo that Mirko had posted on her social media account with Naruto giving her a piggyback ride with a caption that said, "Stamina training with my first pupil." Suffice to say that the tabloids had a field day with that one. It was only due to the far more attention-grabbing things that happened. The whole hero-killer fiasco, that Naruto and Mirko's close relationship wasn't talked about more. "We're underage, and she's way older than him. I'm sure there's nothing of that sort between them," Mina said stubbornly. "Not yet," Kyoka retorted, and Mina glared at her. "But seriously, you should leave that for now, and focus on studying. You're really going to fail the exams at this rate. You know that, right?" Unlike Mina, who was dead last, Kyoka was in the 7th place on the midterm rankings. "Ah, why do you have to remind me about it?" Mina said while pulling at her pink hair in frustration. "Never mind that. How come it's only now that I find out he had a little sister?" "Is she really his sister? They don't look much alike," Okako said. "I just asked Naruto about it and he confirmed it." Kaminari suddenly butted into their conversation and said, "His parents adopted her not long ago." "What was that quirk, though? Did you see it? She healed that boy's wrist instantly," Kyoka said in amazement. While they were talking about the video and Erai's quirk, Naruto was in his seat alone, wearing a custom-made pair of headphones and reading his English textbook. There were only a few weeks left before the exams, and he was close to panicking. English and maths were the subjects he was the weakest at. Then again, maybe it won't be that bad to fail, Naruto said to himself. If he failed, that meant he would have to come to remedial classes during the summer holiday, which would make him unable to participate in the training camp the school had planned out for the first-year Hero Course students. And he was quite okay with that. "I'd rather stay home and dote on Erai-chan and help Izuku with his new quirk," Naruto said to himself. But then he shook his head as if to banish those thoughts. Doing that would just mean taking the easy way out. Besides, he couldn't afford to slack off. The training camp was a good opportunity for him to receive direct guidance from the teachers on how to further develop his quirk. All Might's days as a hero are numbered. I need to get stronger before the chaos that will come once he retires. Having come to that decision, he stopped daydreaming and returned his attention to the English textbook in his hands. While UA high students were cramming for the term exams that were only a few weeks away, several hundred kilometers away, a white-haired youth was dealing with far more pressing matters. He was screaming hoarse with rage, and the skin on his neck, face, and forearms was an angry shade of red and marred with nail marks and scars all over. "It's all because of the damn heroes," Shigaraki screamed, and the nightstand at the side of his bed suddenly collapsed into a pile of dust on the floor. "All Might, the rabbit hero, Uzumaki Naruto. Damn them all. I'll kill them all. I'll destroy them all." His yells became inhuman as he started aggressively scratching his neck with both hands. "Cut it out. You're mutilating yourself," someone shouted as they entered the hospital room with a syringe in their hands. It was a slightly overweight old man with a bald head and a bushy mustache. "I'm in a very shitty mood now, doctor. Don't get in my way," Shigaraki yelled and swung his hand towards the doctor, who was trying to inject him with another serum. However, two non-human beings suddenly grabbed Shigaraki by his arms and pinned him down to the bed. As the doctor inserted the syringe needle in his neck and injected the serum inside, the white-haired man's struggle became weaker by the second until he finally fell asleep. The doctor wiped his forehead with a handkerchief as he left the patient's room and returned to his lab. As he took a seat in front of his supercomputer, a deep voice came from its speakers. "What are the results? Is he going to recover?" "I'm afraid not. The injury to his spinal cord cannot be fixed with orthodox methods. Unless we reconfigure his body and give him a self-regeneration quirk, he'll be stuck in a wheelchair for life. But his mental state is too fragile currently. He won't be able to handle a second quirk." For a moment, the voice at the other end of the speakers was silent. "Has he not calmed down yet?" "No. I was forced just now to give him a sedative. He is hysterical." Deep sigh came from the speakers. "There is one other method," the doctor said. "I have been informed about a young girl with a very potent healing quirk, one that can be used to heal others. By the looks of it, it seems to be similar to Recovery Girl's quirk." "I sense a but. What's stopping you from acquiring it?" "There are too many eyes on her family at the moment. She is Uzumaki Naruto's adopted sister. In the current circumstances after the hero killer's deeds, if anything were to happen to any of them." "Are you worried about the population's outrage? Since when has that held any weight for you?" "When cornered to the extreme, even the sheep would fight back against the wolf," the doctor said pensively. "Shigaraki, Tamura is a piece too important for me to care about such trivial things." "What about Uzumaki Naruto?" the doctor asked. "I have not forgotten about what he did to the Namu we had created to counter All Might. The rest of the Namu that we have at the moment wouldn't stand a chance against him. Nothing short of a high end would be enough to guarantee victory against that freakish boy. But they are still far from ready." A few seconds passed before the voice spoke again. "There is no need for you to attack Uzumaki Naruto's family head-on. Make use of Kurogiri. With his ability, you could kidnap the girl covertly without exposing yourself or the Namu. According to our spy at UA High, the 1A class will have a training camp in the woods during the summer holiday. You can strike at that time to remove all variables. With Uzumaki Naruto away from home, there will be no one left to protect the girl. Kurogiri should be more than enough to handle his quirkless mother and his weak father." 1 month later. "Now, we will begin the practical exam," Professor Aizawa said, and the students all cheered. "Before you start celebrating, keep in mind that you can fail this exam too. If you want to go to the summer training camp, be sure not to make any stupid mistakes." It was the beginning of July, and with the written exams out of the way, and only the practical exams left, the students of the 1A class were already half drunk with the smell of the summer holiday. "We'll be fighting robots again, won't we?" Kaminari asked in high spirits. "This is going to be a piece of cake." Others, like Mina and Akacho, were already celebrating at the thought of all the fun they were going to have during the holiday, especially at the training camp. "Unfortunately for you, This year we decided to give you a different exam. The principal, Nisu, popped out of nowhere and said, "From now on, we want to focus on person-to-person combat, hero work and stress teaching that is closer to actual fighting. Therefore, we'll have you form teams of 2 to fight against one teacher." The new development threw the WANA class off completely. They had expected an easy practical test where they could go wild against robots. Quite a few of them did not even look at it as a test, but more as an opportunity for them to let loose and use their quirks without holding back in fear of injuring someone. "The pairs have already been decided," Aizawa said. "These were determined at my discretion based on various factors, such as fighting style, grades, and interpersonal relationships, as follows. First, Todoroki and Yaoyorozu are one team, and they will be fighting me." The teenagers in question both gulped at Aizawa's menacing grin. "Ojiro and Kirishima will be fighting Cementos. Chu and Tokoyami will be fighting Ectoplasm. Uraraka and Ayana will be fighting 13. Kaminari and Ashita will be fighting Nizu. Shoji and Sira will be fighting Snipe. Kyoka, Jiro and Uzumaki. Naruto will be fighting All Might. The time limit for the exams is 30 minutes. Your objective is either to put these handcuffs on the teacher or to have one of you escape from the stage." When he heard about the teams and the professors they were going to face, Naruto immediately understood the criteria used to split them up. It looked like everyone was going to face the professor against whom they'd have the most challenging time. At first, when he saw all the professors gathered in one place and heard the principal's words about the new practical exam, his greatest fear was that he would have to fight against Professor Might. But the reality turned out to be even worse. He would have to fight against none other than All Might while also having Kyoka Jiro on his team, and she was no different than Professor Mike in terms of how bad was their compatibility. She had already knocked him out once, at the beginning of the year. God, I'm so screwed! Chapter 24. Reveal. 2 hours passed since the matchups had been announced, and Jiro was pulling at her short hair in despair. "We're dead. We're so dead." Unlike his teammate, Naruto was much calmer than before. After getting over his initial surprise at hearing that he would be pitted against All Might, for some reason, the seemingly insurmountable obstacle in front of him lit a fire in his chest. "We can't give up without even trying," Naruto said firmly. "We don't even have to defeat him, just escaping would count as a win for us too." "Escape from All Might? How? Have you not seen any videos of him? He's even faster than a bullet train. It's impossible." "He can't be in 2 places at once. Hear me out." According to the schedule made by Eraserhead, Naruto and Kyoka were the last out of their class to take the practical exam. Although everyone had already finished their own exams, they were all gathered in the control room where the fight between All Might and their 2 classmates was going to be streamed. Uzumaki. Naruto's incredible display of power and tenacity at USJ left a deep impression on the WANA class. They couldn't wait to see how long he was going to last against the No. 1 hero. "Oh my gosh, it's starting!" Kaminari said and let out a girlish squeal of excitement. Although he was his classmate, Kaminari was a complete fanboy when it came to Naruto. For real, I'm getting goosebumps," Ojiro also said, his strong tail beating the air behind him. "This is going to be so freaking awesome," Kirishima shouted and punched his fists together. "Poor Jiro! I'm almost scared to watch this," Mina said while biting her nails in worry. "I hope All Might will go easy on her," Akako also said, her hands joined in prayer. Todoroki was also watching the monitors unblinkingly. Now that Katsuki Bakugo had been expelled, Uzumaki Naruto was the only one he considered worthy of being his rival in his class. No, more than that, at this point, Naruto was more than just a rival. He was like a mountain that he wanted to surpass. "We've got the forest battlefield. It looks like luck is on our side," Naruto said. "Are you sure this is going to work? Just the air pressure coming from his punches will be enough to render all our tactics useless," Jiro said, unable to let go of her pessimism. I don't think he's going to use such big moves because if he destroys the whole forest, Principal Nezu will have his hide, Naruto said, and the girl involuntarily snickered at the mental image of it. That little joke did wonders to ease some of her anxiety. Moreover, he's going to hold back against us too. We're just students. He won't go all out against us because he doesn't want to seriously injure us, or worse, kill us. With his sound reasoning, the girl did get some of her courage back. All Might's power and accomplishments were so intimidating that she had forgotten all about the limitations that were going to serve as a handicap for him. All right, let's do this, she said in a strong voice, trying to pump herself up. Now that's more like it, Naruto said with a grin and raised his fist. The girl mirrored his smile as she bumped fists with him. As she watched Naruto put on his white fox mask and leave, Jiro also put on a regular gas mask and started running towards her position while carrying a loudspeaker in her hand. Both were devices that she had obtained from Yaoyorozu earlier that day. Is it really okay for you to engage All Might all by yourself? Jiro's voice rang in Naruto's earpiece. Our quirks don't match up well if we're close to each other. Aizawa-sensei put us together on purpose to see if we've improved from the beginning of the year until now. Don't feel like you're not contributing enough. Our strategy wouldn't be possible if not for you. Trust me on this, we'll both pass the exam with flying colors. He was speaking with such confidence that it was contagious, and Kyoka got swept up in his mood too. When the horn signaling the start of the exam rang, Naruto pulled the pin of a smoke grenade and threw it on the ground. Then, climbed up in a tree, and from there on, he started launching himself from one tree to another with such speed that it was impossible to follow with the naked eye. Naruto was in his element. What the heck? Kaminari unknowingly cussed out. He couldn't believe what he was watching. His classmates were sharing his feelings too. Even the rest of the teachers present in the control room were watching the monitors with wide eyes. You sure he has a fox quirk, not a gibbon quirk? How in the world can he move like that? Snipe asked. Naruto's tree-jumping speed was so insane and precise that even the drone cameras couldn't keep up with his maneuvers, and they had to fly from above and film him from a distance. He looked like a golden blur of light as he zigzagged from one tree branch to another and dropped smoke grenades in his wake. He must have dropped 7 or 8 military-grade smoke grenades. Forests are environments with very low visibility already. Adding so many smoke grenades on top of it could be a double-edged sword because it will render both parties blind, Ectoplasm said. That's where Jiro's quirk will come into play, Professor Mike said. With her echolocation, she doesn't need eyesight to distinguish their surroundings perfectly. It's a rather simple strategy, but it makes use of their quirks to the fullest without hindering each other. Will that work against someone like All Might, though? Cementos asked. Principal, Nezu, can you turn on the infrared mode for the cameras? The smoke is getting too dense for us to make sense of anything, Aizawa said. Not a bad strategy, Uzumaki Shonen, All Might said out loud as he walked boldly through the forest, seemingly not afraid of any traps or ambushes. However, what will your plan amount to if I do this? After saying those words, All Might cocked his fist back and shouted, Smash! As he threw a punch, an unreal wind pressure was stirred by his fist, and all the smoke in a fan-shaped area 15 meters in front of him dissipated. Then number 1. Hiro turned around and was about to throw another punch to clear out the smoke in another section of his surroundings, when the blade of a knife whirred past his thigh like a bullet, missing him only by an inch. Oi oi, All Might said in a low tone when he saw how the kunai that missed his leg pierced into the trunk of a tree so deeply that only its handle was still visible. It looks like I need to get serious with you two. Ugh, I missed, Naruto said. I need more precise instructions. Be as detailed as you can. Yes, sorry. I'm on it, Jiro said in his earpiece. Right after throwing his kunai, Naruto quickly jumped away from his place and broke into a run. And it was not a second too early because All Might's followed with a smash that not only cleared out all the smoke in the direction from where the blade had come, but the wind pressure accompanying his punch also flattened all the trees in its way. That was a close one. He's at 11 o'clock from your position, 9 meters away. There are 2 tree trunks between the two of you. He is guarding his front with one hand and covering his face with the other. It looks like he can't breathe well because of the smoke. Roger, Naruto replied, taking out another kunai. Shit! All Might let out a cuss word as Naruto's second kunai did not miss this time around, burying deeply into his right thigh. He pulled the blade from his leg and forced his muscles to temporarily shut close the wound. This is a terrific strategy, All Might thought as he ducked and rolled on the ground to avoid another 2 knives. He couldn't afford to continuously fire off his super punches to disperse all the smoke because he would become a sitting target for the Fox Boy's knife-throwing skill. But if he didn't clear out the smoke, Naruto would just continue to throw knives at him behind the protection of the foliage of the forest and the smoke. Sure, if he used his full power, he could obliterate the entire forest section used for the practical exam with one punch. However, gravely injuring his students was the last thing he wanted, much less, God forbid, killing them. The problem is that this kid isn't the type of opponent against whom I can afford to hold back. But when Naruto threw another kunai at him and missed, All Might sprung into action. This is my chance. You missed him this tea, Kyoka began to say in his earpiece, but she suddenly cried out, he jumped towards you. Run! Unlike the previous time when he would just try to disperse the dense curtain of smoke and the thick foliage of the forest with his super punches, this time around, All Might chose to jump in the direction from where the kunai had been thrown at him. Detroit smash! All Might screamed as he fell from the sky and punched down explosively. Deep crater appeared in the ground, and the wind pressure uprooted all the trees in a 10-meter radius, dissipating all the smoke in the surrounding area. Unfortunately for him, the Fox Boy was nowhere to be found. He had escaped. I'm turning on my earbuds active noise canceling. Use your sound attack now, Naruto said in his earpiece, and then he also flattened his fox ears against his head for good measure. Roger! Just a moment after, All Might stood up from the crater that he had created. An ear-splitting sound blasted from across the forest and caught him full on. However, All Might was not recognized as the strongest hero for no reason. Kyoka's sound attack, which would have ruptured the eardrums of most people and driven them to unconsciousness, did little more than make him feel a little dizzy. I got you. All Might laughed out loud and jumped against the powerful sound waves, rushing straight to Kyoka, whose location was now exposed. But right as All Might was about to fire down yet another one of his super punches, he was momentarily stunned at the sight in front of his eyes. Instead of seeing the frightened visage of the skinny and short-haired girl, a fox boy stood there grinning from one ear to another, while covering his fox ears with his hands. In that split second before landing, All Might's eyes fell on the very long cable coming from the back of the loudspeaker. Sitting at Naruto's feet and going several dozen meters away, to the place where Kyoka Jiro was connected to it with her earphone jack earlobes. He had been bamboozled. I can still make it in time, All Might decided as he punched at Naruto with just enough force to knock him out. He planned to incapacitate him quickly and then rush after Jiro, who had already started running towards the exit. The girl would need 10 seconds at most to reach the exit, but, with his speed, All Might was more than confident in capturing her in time. What? Despite the tremendous speed of his punch, Naruto not only managed to easily avoid his powerful swing, but he even jumped towards All Might with a flying knee, smashing it right into his left side. Even as All Might puked a mouthful of blood from Naruto kneeing him as hard as he could into the wounded side of his body, the injury that he had gotten 7 years ago in his deadly battle with Afo, the boy did not stop his attack and threw the yellow cuffs towards All Might's forearm. But, in a show of combat experience befitting his status as the #1 hero, when it looked like Naruto was just about to succeed in cuffing him up, All Might smashed his head into Naruto's temple, sending him flying back like a broken kite. Leaving Naruto where he had collapsed, he turned around and rushed towards Kiko. Although he crawled up to his feet right away, that headbutt to his temple left Naruto so dizzy momentarily that he couldn't remember where he was. But he quickly got a hold of himself. He didn't want to lose. He had promised Kyoka that they would pass the practical exam with flying colors together. Just as All Might turned around and lunged towards Jiro, a golden chain unexpectedly wrapped around his ankle. The number 1. Hiro stumbled and fell flat on his face. "We won! I can't believe we won!" Kyokujiro yelled as she ran back into the forest and swept Naruto into a bear hug. She was so happy that she was crying, especially after how close their victory had been. But she realized what she was doing after a few moments and quickly broke away. She was about to apologize for thoughtlessly getting into his personal space like that when her eyes fell on the 4 golden chains that were still protruding from his lower back. "Naruto-san, what is that?" When Naruto took out his adamantine sealing chains to trip All Might, Kyoka had been running as if her life depended on it to pass the finish line. She had not had the time or leisure to look behind her. It was only now that she was finally seeing the ethereal golden chains coming out of his back.